Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today in this live webinar and broadcast live from Southern California on a beautiful day in the small town of Ojai, California. This is Khabir Southwick here, Ayurvedic doctor and Ayurvedic pharmacist, here to talk about our subject, natural treatments to live longer according to Ayurveda. So I took the words live longer and took them from the Ayurvedic treatment of called Rasayana Chikisa. Chikisa means treatment. Rasa means your tissue or the liquid or the juice of your body. And Rasayana Chikisa means this treatment of the strengthening and nourishing of this tissue in the body to ultimately have the ability to avoid disease, which results in, of course, longevity or living longer. That's how the title comes. So this real subject is called Rasayana Chikisa, the treatment of building tissue. And this is done after the treatment called Kaya Chikisa, the treatment of disease. So say you have high blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, arthritis, or one or all of these health conditions, as many people do now. And you need to treat these first. And maybe the diet has to be somewhat focused on the treatments, possibly depleting. Possibly you have to lose weight. Possibly you have to cleanse the liver. Possibly you have to flush the colon. So these are all types of therapeutic treatments. Kaya Chikisa, the treatment of disease. You're taking the herbs for this blood pressure, for the diabetes, for bring down the blood sugar. There's focus to it. This is the direction. This all needs to be done first. Because if you have any disease like this, whether you're taking the medication or not, then you're not ready for focusing on longevity. You need to resolve the urgent issue. I mean, longevity is being proactive and having a kind of regular self-care. Well, there's no time for regular self-care when you have a inflammatory condition or life-threatening condition or chronic health condition with a major organ in your body, particularly your heart. So that needs to be addressed first. But after that's done, then the doctor should proceed on to Rasayana Chikisa, the strengthening and building of the person to be resilient to disease, which of course means you live longer. But most people don't ask for that service. Once their blood pressure is resolved, once their pain is gone, they say, thank you very much. They give me a nice testimonial. I put the testimonial up on my website. I'm very happy with my testimonials. Thank you very much. And then I send out a lot of emails and say things like, be proactive. Don't wait for the next health problem. If you're on my mailing list, and you can see I say those words a lot. What am I referring to? I'm referring to do come back, even if you don't have a health problem, and let me focus on Rasayana Chikisa, building and strengthening you and increasing your resistance to disease and infection. That's Rasayana Chikisa. That's the subject that we're going to talk about today. So first, we're going to talk about what we can do, things that we do, we should say, that decrease our longevity, decrease our rasa, our tissue, or depleting, we should say, or damaging to our organs and systems in our body. And then next, we'll talk about actions, the mindset, the habits, some foods, and roughly I'll cover some herbs that are all in this category of Rasayana Chikisa, building and strengthening, nourishing, we could say in nutritional terms, and ultimately resulting in no illness, no disease, and longevity. Because the body is designed to live 120 years. So, according to Ayurveda, I think they downgraded it somewhere to 100. I'm not really sure, but we're definitely designed to live a lot longer than 50 when many people have stroke, 60 when people have, blood pressure issues and cholesterol issues, and in 40s people already have diabetes issues. So these are all life-threatening conditions coming on in our 40s and our 50s and our 60s, and then more arthritis and pain, and by the 70s. And this is shortening our lives, all these health conditions, because there are serious health problems. And by taking something that just pacifies the symptoms or improves the numbers and not removing the causes and addressing these health conditions, the pathology that gave you the blood pressure, the cholesterol, the diabetes, the kidney stones, the kidney failure still is continuing in most cases to some degree. And on top of that, you're taking medication to kind of reduce the symptoms and improve the numbers. But this is not the path to longevity. So I would say that's your first bit of advice if you want to live longer, is get rid of all the main obvious damaging actions that we do. And one of those is taking pharmaceutical drugs for medicine instead of for health conditions, instead of, removing the causes and addressing these health conditions in a more holistic, natural, and safer manner without creating side effects, even though it may be a lot more work and take more time taking herbs, changing your diet, cooking foods, etc. But ultimately, you will increase your longevity because you've resolved this health issue. You've stopped this pathology of disease, so it's not progressing to further stages like cancer. Next thing we could do is get rid of all the obvious, other damaging things to our lives, like alcohol. I mean, people justify it in many ways, and I'm sure there is nutrition in fermented grapes, and there are many Ayurvedic formulas called rishtams that have like a couple percent of alcohol in them, and they're used and mixed with water, just a couple teaspoons for medicine. So, but this is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about regular consumption of alcohol, becoming an alcoholic, whether it's admitted or not. That's another subject, not my expertise, but we all know it's unhealthy, as well as cigarette smoking, tobacco smoking, all unhealthy, as well as living in an unhealthy place where there's pollution, next to a highway, so all of living even in the city, congestion, no fresh air. These are all things that hopefully we can try to change in our lives that we know are unhealthy. Anything that's unhealthy, try to work on changing it. That's the first step. Second thing is to think about your diet. If you want to live longer, fasting, extreme diets, possibly even no vegan diet, no meat diet. And now, of course, they're doing no carb diets. They're already starting on no fruit diets, been around. Pretty soon, they're going to be a no vegetable diet next. I don't know what we're going to be down to, bugs or what. But these restrictive diets are depleting. Children need probably more protein and meat and definitely dairy. And, we can't just keep stopping these because a percent of the population is allergic to them or you're allergic to them. Doesn't mean everybody's going to be allergic to them. And most people are just having poor digestive problems and can't digest a lot of foods and tend to blame the food instead of fixing their digestion, one. And then two, we have, of course, really poor agricultural practices here. I don't need to get into with heavy use of pesticides and chemicals, and that make these foods practically toxic, and then you're digesting them for a long time. This will be all fast food, all restaurant food, all food that's not certified organic, and even there we have questions. So I prefer to grow my own food in my garden, and that would be the preferred way to stay healthy. But definitely fast food, junk food, processed food in a cheap store where you're just buying goods that are clear, vegetables and fruit that are not organic. We know many of these chemicals are carcinogenic. So you're shortening your life there. Try to go organic and try not to do extreme diets. Don't think just fasting and not eating and becoming skinny, bony thing is healthy. Skinny and bony is not Rasyana. Ayurveda doesn't see that as, they see it as vata vrudi, high vata, a state of depletion when your bones are sticking out. Low fat diet will create this, no carb diet, everything in balance. Of course, you don't want to be obese and you don't want to be too depleted. Depleted is not going to increase your longevity, being skinny and still fitting in your bathing suit from your 20s. All right. And the next thing we can do is spend more time in nature, getting outside more, getting our feet on the ground. A lot of people have been talking about grounding. Well, it makes sense. You can't live up on concrete and up off the ground. This is not going to be healthy. And then, of course, you need fresh air. You got to get outside. You can't keep breathing in the air that's being circulated around and around in an office building. You need fresh air and you need sunshine. You can't just stay inside all the time. You need to get out, even if it's hot in the morning, and get some sunshine, just like a plant. I mean, we need this healthy environment, and it's being in nature, spending away from nature. And finally, we can reduce down the amount of stress in our lives. We create a lot of stress. Too much expense mean you're more nervous. You have to work harder to pay more bills because you have more expense. So increasing expense, unless you're very wealthy and you're only increasing it way below your means, then this creates more stress. That's another subject, but it makes the point. Too much work, too much projects, too many jobs, too much responsibility, pushing too hard. All these are creating too much stress. Now, I mean, going to the dentist is for me stressful. So I learned to take care of my teeth so I don't go. Going to a doctor would be stressful. So I don't go. I take care of myself. So we can all do things that leave less stressful lives, having more, being more cautious with our decisions, not creating situations that create more anxiety. And so lowering stress in your life. So those are the things that we can do to live longer. Get rid of all the bad habits we know are obvious. Don't do extreme diets and fasting and depleting ourselves. Eat regular meals that are wholesome, suitable for you. Stay active. That we didn't mention that. But that means not sitting, of course, but it also means not the other extreme of running 4 miles a day, working out 2-3 hours a day in the gym. These extremes, those of even you can over exercise. I know it's only a small percent of the population, but there is a percent of people that are over exercising to the point that they are depleted. Now they may maybe they're a great long distance runner, but they are not focusing on longevity. You better have a little extra fat in the body. Eat a little bit extra, and you can exercise and stay active. I would say that's more healthy than just working certain muscles in the gym or running on a treadmill. But of course, something's always better than nothing. And then, of course, we talked about stress. And there's a big subject about eating food. Of course, you should eat what's balancing yourself. What may be good for you may not be good for another person. So eat a diet that's balanced for you, suitable for you. Don't follow what other people said. Okay, so those are the major changes we can talk about. Next, we'll talk about foods and herbs that aren't necessarily building. And overall, I like to say that this type of treatment is you're being proactive. You're doing regular self care. You're not waiting around for a health problem, which really most people are doing. Most people are thinking, oh, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, right up until they're in the ER. And then now they realize, oh, I wasn't fine. I had that high blood pressure was more serious than I thought. Eating burgers all the time, I guess, was affecting me more than I thought. Having soda pop all the time was affecting me more than I thought. They just think they're healthy right up until they're in the emergency room. So that's not being proactive. You need be proactive so you not end up in the emergency room. So like, from example, I'm 60. I don't have any prostate problems. I don't urinate at night, but I drink prostate tea because I've had a lot of clients who had prostate problems. I think to myself, man, I don't want that. So I'm drinking at least one, maybe 2 cups, 2 bags of my prostate tea every year. And when we make it in big batches, if there's a little left, I'll say, hey, give me some of that prostate tea. The staff say, hey, do you have prostate problems? I know, but I'm being proactive. So these are the kind of things we can take. Taking vitamins, I take some krill oil, I take some natural vitamin D3. I take my superfood, which has got wheatgrass, barley grass, we're going to talk about herbs in a minute, but also anything nutritional like that, beetroot grass, barley grass, bee pollen. See, bee pollen, building and strengthening. See, that's what we're talking about, building and strengthening. Remember, when you have a health problem, say you got blockages in the arteries, you got to clean out those arteries, clean out that plaque. If you've got fatty deposits in your liver and blocked gallstones, we have to clean out that fat, thin out the blood, flush out those gallbladders. You see, the actions are kind of cleansing and depleting. When you have these health issues, are not depleting, flushing, cleansing, restoring, stimulating. But when you're talking about building and strengthening for longevity, it's different. These are building nutritious things like wheatgrass juice, like barley juice, like chlorella. They're almost nutritional. And what was that? And even milk. Milk is very nutritious, very building. And in fact, all Rasyana treatments in Ayurveda are taken in milk. And we're going to talk about those herbs in a minute, which are taken in milk. So milk is very building and strengthening and considered almost one of the most premier Rasyana building, strengthening things, raw milk. We're not talking about watery almond milk, or a little bit of coconut milk. Now we're talking about real milk. And goat milk is more strengthening and building than cow milk, which is more cooling. So these are, small mammals can live off of mother's milk. And often, other cow milk is used as a replacement when there's no choice in these mammals and humans are able to survive for some period of time and still grow and build. It's very nutritious, very building. So milk is considered rasiana, as most dairy is, and meat to some degree depends on the individual. But there's many foods that are building, like mango is considered rasiana. Mango and grapes and the building. Grapes is kind of balanced. It also it has a cleansing effect to it. And bananas, that was what I was thinking of building. And for fruit, for vegetables like sweet potato, it's a vata pacifying diet, basically, to build and strengthen. And so other nurturing foods that would be taken to build and strengthen the person. Say a person is weak and frail, like an elderly person is 90 years old and they're in bed, no big health issues, they're just kind of weak, lying there. You don't give them salads. You give them sweet potato with butter. You don't give them water. You give them warm milk. You see the difference? Water is cleansing. Milk is nourishing. So, and you build them up through this manner. Now, as far as the herbs are, say you were to say, oh, give me a Rasiana building, strengthening formula. Oh, I would say ashwaganda, definitely for vata, shatavari, definitely for pitta. Punarnarava, also restorative, even though it's good for water swelling and kapha, it's still a rasiana. And like I said earlier, you could be taking bee pollen, also building, strengthening. Almost everything from the bee is good, but definitely the pollen is strengthening. And there's many other, it should be called superfoods. Now, people have a lot of fake superfoods, chocolates are superfood. No, you can't. A superfood should be something that's building and strengthening and making you stronger and building muscle and stamina, like bee pollen, not a goji berry, not chocolate. Everybody's calling everything a superfood. These are not superfoods. Goji berry is a nightshade, can be inflammatory. Cacao bean, for sure, is inflammatory and addictive and stimulating. So it's anything but a superfood. But like banana, mango, sweet potato, even lassi with like a kind of spices and a banana yogurt drink, warm lassi. These are building. You don't want to think weight gaining, but basically, if you're overweight, you don't do Rasiana treatment. You got to do, other Shodana Chikisa of treatment of the weight first. So these type of treatments and diet plan isn't for an overweight person. They have to balance the weight first. I'm glad I brought this up before they do this Rasiana, because the excess weight is the health issue that needs to be addressed first. Then we can strengthen up their muscles, strengthen up their stamina. And I will say finally that, Rasiana is, Chikisa is very similar to building libido and sexual strength. They both are in the same direction. And a lot of the herbs carry through, like this ashwaganda, shatavari, shilijit, is a nutritional type of mineral sap that's used for building trace minerals in the body, and also known to be for sexual stamina. And of course, if you're talking about libido, there's more herbs to make a person more stimulated, more aroused, blah, blah, blah. You can add more, but the base of it is still these building and strengthening herbs of these, even libido formulas, particularly for men. They have the base of it is these Rasianas in Ayurveda. So these Rasianas build strength, stamina in your body, and resistance to disease. Thus, you will live longer. So I hope this gives you more clarity on how to improve your life, and know that there's such treatments. And feel free to ask me for this treatment. If you're my existing client, we've already treated your major health issues, and now there's more that you can be doing to live longer, and the time to do it is when you're healthy, not waiting until the next health issue comes. I hope I made that clear. I hope to see some of you, and I wish all of you the best of happiness and good health. God bless you all.